How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I thought today I would do a video about betas. I've really enjoyed getting into betas. I've really enjoyed playing them. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a video on why I think it's a good idea to get into betas. Kind of go over the things that I think are pros and maybe cons to playing betas. How I go about finding betas, and then some of the betas that I've been in the past. So before we get into all of that, I thought I'd use a let's play or a gameplay that is from the Smite beta that's going on currently right now. I believe right now it is in an open status. You can go to their website, you can go to IGN, you can go several different places. A lot of people are giving away free beta codes to get into it. So if you haven't tried it yet, I highly recommend it. It is a really fun game to play. It is a free-to-play game. It does have microtransactions for gods, skins, voice packs, things like that. But you can certainly get into it with no money, no financial obligations into it, and still enjoy playing the game. So I highly recommend you guys checking that out if you're interested. So with that said, betas. I think I like playing them. I enjoy playing them. I think they're very important to the game development process. And I think it's very important as a gamer and somebody who cares about the community and cares about how these games are put out to us, that you should participate into them. I think there are several different reasons why it's good to participate in betas, both beneficial for the consumer, both for us, as well as for the developers of the game as well. So uh, I would have to say one of the pros that could be considered for the consumer are sometimes when you participate in betas, if it's something that you're interested in, is you do receive some sort of, I'm not going to say benefit, but some sort of item, some sort of in-game material that shows off that you participated in the beta. For example, when I did the Destiny beta, you got a little banner to be able to put on your name tag that signifies that you participated in the beta. Same thing with Gears of War 3 multiplayer beta. You got a little emblem you can put on your guy to kind of just show that you were part of the beta as well. I believe like World of Warcraft, when they do their betas for things, when Blizzard, they get like little in-game things. I know, I think one time they gave away like a little creature, a little dog creature that could run around with you that people, would notice, and they would tell, that you were in the beta. So that's one part of it. I mean, it's not very big, but if it's something that if you're somebody who's in kind of getting those kind of unique items within items that nobody else is going to get, that's certainly a positive or a really good reason to get into a beta. Another reason, kind of along those lines, is a benefit towards the customer or the consumer, is sometimes you will, in order to get into betas, you have to pre-order a game, or just buy a game. Halo Master Chief Collection, you got into the multiplayer, the Halo 5 multiplayer for that. Destiny, if you pre-ordered it, you got into that one. Black Ops 3, I believe they're also doing it. Bulletstorm a long time ago, if you purchased the game, you got into the multiplayer for Gears of War 3 beta. So, and the nice thing with that is and I bring up Bulletstorm, is sometimes you happen to find a game that you weren't necessarily thinking about, or you weren't necessarily looking at as being a possible pretty good game, but then it actually turns out to be a pretty decent little game. I'm not saying Bulletstorm was one of the greatest games ever made, or if it even really got great reviews, but it was a game that I really did enjoy. I enjoyed playing the campaign. I enjoyed the mechanics, and really enjoyed the sniper rifles that you could guide the bullets, kind of like smart bullets a little bit. So I bought Bulletstorm simply to get into the multiplayer beta for Gears of War 3, but ended up liking the other game. So that does happen sometimes. You do get into or purchase a game or get into a game that maybe you weren't necessarily thinking about or you weren't looking at in that manner, and it ends up being something worth getting to. So those are kind of some other, small, maybe not so noticeable benefits. It's just more of a personal preference when it comes to playing betas. Uh, you know, as far as what you're getting out of it, I think these next two that I consider to be important are a little bit more major. I'm sticking with the gamer, the consumer side of it. I think it's getting into betas is an amazing way to kind of get an idea of what the game's going to be like before you play it. Obviously, you go into any beta, you go into anything like this, you're under the understanding that it's not going to be the complete package. There's going to be issues, there's going to be bugs, there's going to be things that need to be fixed. But you're getting a general sense of how this game is going to play. How am I going to enjoy it? So I think by doing the betas and participating in them, that's certainly a major plus for you as a consumer, because most times, you buy a game, you're spending anywhere from 60 to 100, $120 on that game. Turns out to be a piece of junk. You don't really like it. You want to trade it in, and you might get 30, $35 for it, and that's never a good deal for anybody. So I think if they announce that a game is getting a beta and it's something that you're interested in, and it's not something that you're for sure, I know this is going to be worth getting, get in the beta. I mean, just do it, because at the very least, the only thing you're out is time. In most cases, it's just a time of signing up, filling out whatever little form you have to fill out, which most of the time is just your name, uh, email address, and that's pretty much about it. So I would just recommend doing it whenever possible, even if it's a game you weren't necessarily looking into, because again, one, you get to see what it's about, and two, it's a free game. So why wouldn't you do it? In most cases, it's free. So I would recommend doing it whenever possible. And then lastly, a benefit and a plus to getting into betas is something that's alongside with the designers a little bit, maybe more so than the gamers, but it still affects us. Is most betas, 99.9% of them, have some sort of forums, have some sort of feedback method that you can go in and provide actual in-game feedback, real life feedback to the developers about what's going on. And sometimes, things do get changed. Sometimes, people bring things up and they're major stuff, design stuff, heavy things that aren't going to get fixed. And that's unfortunately something that's probably going to have to be done in a patch or something like that, if it gets fixed at all. But sometimes you can say, okay, hey, like in the case of Smite, you can say, okay, this particular god is OP, or this particular god special move is slightly underperforming. It needs to be buffed, or this needs to be nerfed, or can we do this, or things like that. So little things that you can continue to bring up on the forums. You can continue to tweak the game and provide that feedback that allows the developers to do that tweaking that inevitably makes the game better for everybody. So I think, again, when you factor in, if you're somebody who cares about getting those little in-game items, that kind of completionist type mentality, if you're somebody who's really looking into getting a early access or an early preview of what the game is going to be, and if you're somebody who actually really cares and really wants to be able to provide that feedback to developers and say, to help improve the game, why wouldn't you get into a beta? There's just no reasoning to why you wouldn't do it. And like I mentioned, most of the times getting into a beta is as simple as just going to the website, clicking sign up, putting your name and your email address, and then just waiting. If it's a closed beta, if it's an open beta, you get stuff pretty quickly. If it's a beta that's like on the marketplace or the PSN store, it's just to download it. Why wouldn't you? It takes just a few seconds to do it, and you get it. You get an opportunity to see a new game, experience that new game, give feedback to it, get special in-game items if it's a game you're going to buy. There's all the pluses are in your favor with no financial commitment, and the only thing you have to give up is maybe 5 minutes. So I certainly would recommend doing that if you're someone who's really interested in doing that. And if you're not, maybe get into one. Just kind of see what it's about. Maybe you never know, because I never really knew about them until I noticed it on, I believe, E3 2015 13, 12. And they just started talking about betas. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool. Might as well try that out. So, but with everything, I'm sitting here preaching to you guys and trying to tell you that this is the greatest thing in the world and that you should really get in there and do a beta. Nothing ever goes wrong with any of them. There are some things. But I think most of the cons that I can think of are easier to swallow because if you go into the beta with the understanding that it is a beta, that it is a test, basically, essentially, there can be issues, and understand that and keep that open mind, it would make things easier to swallow, I think. So, with that said, there are a few issues with it. As far as signing up for betas, sometimes it can be frustrating. Sometimes you find a game out there that you really, really want to get into. You really want to be part of that beta. You want to try it. And this is the only one that this ever affects is the closed beta. And you sign up for it, and you never get a chance to get into it. I've been fortunate. I think the only beta that I had signed up for and never made it into was the crew. So I've only not been selected for one of them. But it is something that can happen. It is something that will happen. And I would actually say it probably happens a lot more than not. I actually signed up to be in the Smite beta roughly, I want to say, a month after it was announced as a closed beta, and I didn't actually get the beta key for this until probably about 2 weeks before they made it an open beta. So that was kind of disappointing because it was one I really wanted to get into, but that's kind of typical of how things happen. Sometimes you get them right away, sometimes you gotta wait, and then sometimes you don't get into them at all. It's just part of the game you play when you try to get into betas. Another issue that would come up is sometimes they're broken or they have kind of major issues. The ones that come to mind for me is Defiance on the 360 when they did the beta for that. It was a closed beta, and a lot of times the servers didn't work. So you weren't able. It took a long time to get connected into the game, and then once you did get connected in the game, sometimes you had pretty major lag issues. So you have instances like that. You have the Halo 5 beta, where it took forever to get into a lobby, and I don't know if that was necessarily the beta or just the overall performance of the Master Chief Collection multiplayer that they had issues with. But sometimes, those things happen within the beta. I don't think it's necessarily indicative of the game. I think, obviously, in Halo 5's or Halo 5's example, it certainly was indicative of the game, but I would say that's probably not the norm as far as performance for the game. For the betas is indicative of the performance of the main game, but there's issues sometimes when things come up. I think another issue is that a beta doesn't really give you the whole story. Most of the time they're using it to be a stress test for the servers, or a certain test for a certain game type or something along those, or just kind of a general, let's get everybody in there playing kind of a little bit of the portion of the game, track the performance, and kind of extrapolate that through the course of the game. This is how it would naturally play. The best example of this I'd have to say is Destiny. Before the beta came out for Destiny, we were all excited through the screenshots. We were all excited and ready, and hyped up over the articles and everything that talked about what this game was going to be. The alpha came out, the beta came out. Everybody was absolutely excited to get in there and play it and see what this game had to offer. And you got in there, and the initial beta itself actually really wasn't that bad. It had some issues, but it really wasn't that bad, and it got you even more hyped up for the main release. But we get the main release, and this is what we got. Now, it's certainly through patches, updates, the DLC, all that kind of stuff, they've certainly started to improve the game, and the game in its state right now today, at least in my opinion, take away your issues and your concerns with the story, gameplay wise, mechanic wise, has now started to, almost make that turn around to being a pretty solid game. But you never saw any of those issues. You never saw the loot drop issues. You never saw the lack of story. You never saw any of that within the beta. And that could happen. You could play a beta and not see everything that you wanted to see or you thought you needed to see or anything like that. And then you buy the main game, the $60 retail version of the game, and it's completely different. It just doesn't play the same well. So it is, that can happen. I would say it doesn't happen all the time because a lot of those betas, like I said, they're just mainly stress tests for servers, testing certain modes. So you're only really dealing with that. It's not indicative of the actual game, but sometimes that does happen. So, uh, and then lastly, again, this one is an issue, could be an issue. I don't necessarily think it's an issue that you can really judge very well to be an issue. But on the forums and on the feedback, methods, sometimes obviously the developers aren't going to listen to what's being said on the forums, which I would imagine that happens most times than not. But that is kind of an issue because if you have that option out there for them to provide feedback, you would like to know that that feedback is actually legitimately being followed and uh, taken from the gamers, from the community, to help improve it. But you can never guarantee that it is or it isn't. So those are kind of my pros and my cons to playing in betas. I certainly think there's 100% more pros than there are cons to doing this. In my opinion, the only real true con is just the time frame. Sometimes it takes you to get into them, or even find them for that matter. That's really my biggest issue. I go into it personally with the understanding that it is a beta. There's gonna be issues. There's gonna be concerns with all of them. But I look at it more of it's my opportunity to see this game early, whether I was a game that I was really stoked for, like Smite, or possibly trying to get into other games because they look interesting, but it's not something right now today I would spend $60 on if I had to. But getting into the beta, seeing what it's all about, getting a chance to play it, maybe I will spend $60 later. So that's just for me, anyways, why I think getting into betas is just a no-brainer. It's an easy decision to make. So now that I've kind of gone over, my pros and cons of, betas, I kind of want to go over how I go about getting into betas. I kind of have a few things that I look at mainly on most parts to be able to find them and locate them. And then once you're into them, it's just a matter of just remembering what email address you always put down and being able to keep track of everything. So first and foremost, I love watching YouTube videos that cover like game conferences and things like that. And with E3 about a week away, there's probably going to be a lot of them announced there. So just watching those videos from like E3, Gamescom, PAX, all those things, just seeing those videos, because if they're going to announce one, probably going to announce one there. And then all of it is just following whatever instructions they give you to enroll, and then you can just kind of go from there. And sometimes they actually open it up for you right there at that moment, like they did last year for the PlayStation experience. They opened up the Battlefield Hardline beta early for PlayStation users before they opened it up to everybody else. So that's kind of my major go-to when it goes to looking for them. Obviously, you go to the actual game's website. So let's say that Hi-Res Studio didn't announce they were going to do a beta outright. I would go to their website because it's a game I'm interested in, see if the website says anything about betas. You can also Google, Smite beta or Call of Duty beta or Uncharted 4 beta or anything like that. And most times, if there's a beta that's been discussed or listed on a site, you're going to find it that way. I go to other gaming websites, IGN, GameSpot, because they're going to sometimes they participate in betas on their own too. They work with the developers to hold betas on too, so you'll be able to get all the information you need from there. Like I mentioned, right now you could probably IGN has been doing it probably the last couple weeks, at least 2 or 3 times a week, where they've announced that you could go onto their website and get a free key to the Smite beta. So that is a pretty useful site as well. Excuse me. And then I go to betaboard.com, which is actually a pretty extensive website when it comes to betas. Also includes a lot of PC betas. If you're a PC player and you want to get into playing some betas on PC, they do have quite a bit of those on there. So that's a good place to go. And then lastly, you have your pre-orders and then purchasing incentives. So again, not necessarily one that I utilize a lot. I think I've maybe done it a handful of times. But sometimes, they say, hey, pre-order this game, get into the beta. I look at it as this: I pay $5. I play, like right now. I paid $5 to get into the Black Ops 3 beta. If Black Ops 3 follows the pattern of the last few Call of Duties, it is horrible. The most I'm out is $5. I don't even have to worry about that $60 issue with that game. But if it turns out to be a lot like it was for Black Ops 2, which I actually did enjoy, I put $5 down. No, I just gotta go pay the other, $55. But it's just, sometimes there is some financial commitment to it in that pre-orders, but a lot of times they'll let you, if you don't want that game, they'll let you move your $5 to another game. Or really, at the end of the day, I understand it's $5, but it's $5, and I'd rather lose $5 than $60. So that's really how I go about locating betas and where I find them. So lastly, I just kind of wanted to go over the list of all the betas that I've gotten into. Just kind of give you an idea of the betas that have been out there and kind of what you can look forward to maybe on the types of games that should be having betas going forward. Going all the way back to the 360. Now, I didn't have a PlayStation 3. I just recently got a PlayStation, or didn't get back into PlayStation after the 2 until the 4 came out. So I've only played one PlayStation 4 beta. But for 360, I was in the Gears of War 3 betas, which was I got through the purchase of Bulletstorm. The Battlefield 4 beta, which was an open download from the marketplace. Defiance, World of Tanks, and Lost Planet 2, which were all sign-ups. On the 1, obviously Smite, Neverwinter, Halo 5, Fable Legends, Destiny, Battlefield 4 or Battlefield Hardline, Evolve, and Titanfall. On the PlayStation 4, I've played PlanetSide 2. I actually just recently signed up for 2 PC ones. Will be my first 2 I've tried to get on the PC. One for Overwatch, which you can actually get into sign up for today if you'd like at us.battlenet/Overwatch, and I'll go ahead and I'll put in the full URL of the game, or the to get to the beta as well in here. And then Gigantic, which is another MOBA type game, a lot like Smite, at GoGigantic.com. Again, I'll put the URL here on the screen so you guys have that as well. And then I signed up for the Rainbow Six Siege. I did that through my Xbox. I'll put that URL up. And then the Black Ops 3 I did through a pre-order through GameStop, I believe. No, I did this one through my local game store, not GameStop, but I know GameStop is doing it as well. So I've been in quite a few. I've been doing betas for the last couple of years, getting in there and playing them. I honestly think there's nothing hurt and nothing lost if you participate in betas. Most of the betas, I think, the Black Ops 3 is the first, or maybe the Evolve one I got into, but I knew I was going to purchase that one. There might have been 2 or 3 that I got into because I pre-ordered something. I know there was only been 2 that I've got into because I actually bought the game outright. But most of them were just going to the website, signing up, and just waiting for the email notification that you're in. And all that costs you is time. And then what you get as far as a reward out of it is so much more than that last few minutes, or that few minutes that you've lost trying to, find it and enroll into it and watching your emails. So, again, guys, I'd like to thank you very much for your time. thank you very much for your support of the channel. I'm currently working on a preview for E3 since we're about a week away from that. And then once the conferences are over, I'll kind of do a recap of each one to go over what each conference had to offer. And then actually I have a very special thing that I'm going to get to do is I'm actually going to go to a Sony experience that they're doing in a theater where they're going to be playing the E3 Sony press conference and giving away some Sony stuff at the event as well. So I'll kind of have a show and tell of that and then a recap of that conference as well. So like I said, guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys next time.